But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. And dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope. And joining me tonight is everybody's favourite president and my good friend, Lee Gowland.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Doesn't seem like 2 days since we were sat here doing exactly the same thing.
I would like to say, Lee, we're more prepared tonight, but we're probably not. So we won't go down that rabbit hole just yet. But people may think, Lee, it's the off-season. And what have you two fine gentlemen got to talk about? But remember, people, this is the last month without football until March 2025. Now, as training camp is just around the corner and there's the new rule change regarding the kickoffs, we've got two fantastic guests joining us from the UK Faithful community. Both have been a big part of what we're doing here at 49er Faithful UK. And as me and Lee always say, we like to get fellow UK Faithful on to chat all things 49ers. First up, Lee, our very own Mr. South Coast, Nathaniel James, a proud member of the Cool Jacket Club. He is a regular at our watch parties and he travels a long distance to come to those watch parties. It's been great to meet Nat in person and I'm delighted that he's joining us live on the 49er Faithful UK. What's up, Nat?
How are you doing, fellas? Yeah, hiya. Thank you both for having me on. It's a real honour to be part of the show. Good that you both have me on.
Yeah, no problem. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got your name right tonight. For those people who are watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. Yeah, me and Lee had a bit of a moment, shall we say, on Monday. But also joining us tonight, Lee, we have another member who was based in the Midlands. He's a passionate 49ers fan who loves nothing more than to talk football. He hasn't yet been at one of our meetups, but I'm sure it's on his plans to join us this year. I'm delighted to welcome James Little to the 49er Faithful UK Live. What's up, James?
Hi, guys. Yeah, all right, guys. How you doing? Look forward to this. It'd be good to talk football. I've took myself away from it up until you guys contacted me a few days ago, and then I'm straight back into the fold. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've got to say, I think from a 49er perspective, the off-season's been quite a slow one. I know we've had the IUC thing burning in the background and everybody's constantly got a view on that. But other than that, I think it's been fairly quiet. I don't know if it's because, obviously, we lost the Super Bowl and nobody wanted to think about football again. But yeah, I think it's felt as though it's been a long, long time to get to this point where we were a couple of weeks away from camp and football starting again.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to be fair, James, that's one of the questions that I'm going to get to. I know you've taken some time away, but before we get into all that, obviously, I want to shout out the chat, Lee. I'll let you control some of the comments this time. So the chat on a Wednesday, gentlemen, is always on fire. It's always great to see the regulars in there. Now, as you'll see, Lee, the first one I'll put up, Matt Walker. Now, you'll also see that he must have 2 YouTube channels because if you look on that one, he's proudly flying the flag that just arrived today and his brand new Mitchell & Ness jersey. So we always like to talk about
That's
our
very well
merch.
spotted that, Paul. I would never have spotted that.
Well, you know. But before we get into it, Nat, I'm going to come to you first. So I want you to tell the good people who are watching just how long you've been a Niners fan and why the San Francisco 49ers.
I think for me, it kind of, I've been a Niners fan more seriously, I would say, probably the post kind of Colin Kaepernick kind of era with Jim Harbaugh. And then, we had quite a nasty few years, didn't we? But I mean, from the perspective of why I'm a 49ers fan, I guess for me, it goes back to my roots and my family. My dad is he was a massive 49ers fan with, Montana, the GOAT Jerry Rice and, Dwight Clark and all that lot. So, yeah, that for me is the reason that I chose them and I wanted to continue, and I have continued, and it's been since sort of uni days really that I've watched, and I've been part of it. First game I went up to was a game up at London. It was the Rams versus the Patriots, but as I say, the Rams weren't particularly brilliant, and we had Tom Brady with the Patriots. But yeah, I guess for me it was what that sort of stemmed the interest, and I've been part of the faithful UK groups from sort of 2014, 2015. And just, I think it's an amazing group because it really does link you in with other fans that, I can consider really good friends. And, it gives a lot more sort of connections with people. And being the fact that I've been to some of the watch parties now, it's been an amazing atmosphere. Also watching the Super Bowl as well. Um, Despite the result, it was good to actually share it and actually, we were in the comfort of everybody, even though we were feeling really, really sad about the result because obviously we wanted something different. Yeah, that was it. So, yeah, I hope that's kind of answered the question. I've gone a bit
No, buddy. The reason I ask is I'll come to James in a moment. Being an NFL fan in the UK, it's a lonely existence at times. And I think all of our stories will begin with finding this team, watching NFL at home, and then trying to arrange a watch party and meet up, going to watch football with other fans. And that's part of the reason for you two coming on tonight. I mentioned at the start, South Coast. Obviously,
Yes.
James, you're based in the Midlands. And it's always good to put faces to the names because, like me and Lee, we obviously run the group and we interact with loads of people. But then you start to kind of sometimes you move that to the DMs. And I mentioned at the start, James, I'm going to come to you now. I know you love to talk football, and I know you tried to go live on a Saturday night on our Facebook page. It was like 10:30 at night. And Tracy was like, do people really want to talk football on a Saturday night at this time? I was like, yes, we do. So, James, same question to you, buddy. How long have you been a Niner, and why this wonderful team of ours?
I can actually pinpoint it to a week because I moved out of my home that I grew up in with my parents on the 11th of the 11th, 2011. And that weekend, two of my friends came around to my new flat. And one of my friends had been watching NFL for a number of years. And we watched the Premier League games on a Sunday. And because I had my own place, they just kind of didn't go home. So then we ended up watching sport all down the Sunday. And then he's an NFL fan. He went, I'll put the NFL on because it's been on Sky for a number of years. And the first game I watched was an Eagles game versus, I think it was the Giants at the time. And I didn't, because it was one of my mates' teams. So I was like, nah, don't really fan. Then the following week, it was the 49ers. And I think it was either the Browns or something. I can't pinpoint the opposition, but we're watching it. And it was through they had the American commentary. It was one of them Sky games where they just put it through to the Fox feeds as opposed to the guys in the, now it's come on a lot more because they have more presence of themselves, Sky. And they referred to the 49er fans as the faithful. Now, my English sports team, we have a saying, and it's keep the faith. I've got it tattooed on my leg. And I was like, well, if I'm going to get into this sport, and I was like, well, the fan base is called the faithful. I've got keep the faith as my one team above the badge on my leg. I thought, well, that's going to be my team. They just happened to be a up and coming team at the time, and obviously the year later, I think it was the year later, we obviously went and lost to the Ravens and we had Colin Kaepernick, and it just went from there, and it became an obsession. I'll be honest, it was 0 to 100 is the long and short of it. I came from like watching one game with my mates to the following week. That's my team because of that one little thing that relates to my other sports team. I thought, well, that goes together. They're my two teams. And from there, it's just been an obsession. Yes, I took myself away for about 3 months because of the heartache of the Super Bowl, which I did before. It's just one of them things. But I'm back. I'm looking forward to talking football. But that's why I chose the 49ers, because the faithful, as we all are, through the good and the bad. We had a fair bit of bad, and I've stuck with them then. So I'd like to get rewarded, but we'll come on to that.
So I'm glad you used the expression obsessive. obsession, because that kind of segues into something that I'd messaged you about earlier on, and that's like merch. What strange merches have you got? Because I started, I mean, you can see it all behind me. I started collecting stuff, and it was only the other week I was looking at some of it and thinking, why on earth did I buy that? I only bought it because it's got a 49ers logo on it. I mean, I've got this here. This came from Disney, Downtown Disney. I mean, it's never coming out of the box.
Is it a Funko Pop? One of those Funko Pop things?
No, so I think this might be like an early version of Funko Pop. It's called an animation, Vinylmation. That's what it's called. And Disney do a lot of these. And it's not just NFL. Obviously, they do all the Disney characters. But I bought that purely because it had a 49ers logo on. I'm not a huge Disney fan, although I have been over there a couple of times and I enjoyed it. But I just saw it and I thought, well, it's 49ers. I've got to buy it. And then when I was in Mexico, I ended up buying that.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a skull.
That's pretty good.
That's unusual, isn't it? Yeah.
And I just looking at them thinking, you know, I've got a problem. I'm obsessed. I see a 49ers logo on something and I go and buy it. In fact, my sister-in-law bought us this the other week. Don't know if you can just see that there. So this is a rope keyring type thing.
Yeah. Like a Lego man. I've seen them advertised, but just never pressed the trigger. But when you said Mexico, Lee, I'm cutting in there. That's not the item of merchandise I thought you were going to show the chaps. Surely you're going to show them the wrestler mask.
It's right.
Oh, you've got a Nacho Libre. Have you got a Nacho Libre?
Yeah.
So, James, right? The year before, I went to San Francisco with Lee. Me and Tracy had gone up to Lee's house to have some drinks with Lee and Andrea. Now, Lee's man cave is impressive. So he was like, Tracy, come with me. You've got to see the man cave. Now, I didn't know they were plotting some secret spending trip for Lee to bring some goodies back for me. But the first thing Tracy said to me when she got in the car was, Lee's got a strange mask in his room. And I thought, what on earth were them two getting up to in that room?
Well, funnily enough, I made the mistake of wearing it once. And David Ellicott took a photo of us wearing it. That's now on his phone. So every time I ring him, it's me in that mask.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. That is fantastic.
Yeah. So be careful what you buy. I've also got the Mexican, I don't know what you call it. It's like a smock type thing. A cape, yeah.
Yeah. It's the Nacho
like
Libre stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. That's quite good as well, but I could never wear it, especially not in Santa Clara, because it's so warm.
Well, it wasn't when we were there. Well
no, it wasn't. Yeah, that was just because where we stood or sat.
So as Justin has put there, chaps, draw a 49ers logo on a bar napkin. He'll buy it for $1. Bebop,
yeah, I'm exactly the same.
That's a good analogy.
Loves that mask. And so who wants to answer Lee's question first? Nat or James? Which one of you is taking the merch question?
Do you have any like really weird merch?
My obsession comes in particular things. So at one point it was hats. I must have had a collection. God, well, I think you're the same, Paul. I'm getting one of those. Also, I only put this on because I've got a grey t-shirt on. I've got so many if I was in the bedroom, you'd see all along the top of my wardrobe my hat collection. I did give a number of them away because they just gathered dust, unfortunately. So it was hats, but then it was hoodies, and it was jerseys. The most expensive one was obviously jerseys, but I used to be 2 sizes bigger than I am now. So I ended up giving those to fellow fans. I think I sent you one. I might have sent you one. I ended up giving them to other faithful. I was no way I was going to sell them. I don't, I think I heard on the podcast you guys talking about bumping into people with 49ers stuff, and you give them the nod. And now, I think it was you, Paul, that actually said we have entered this Raider NFL apparel zone. Like, for years people wore Raiders stuff. I think I've got a slight confession. When I was a teenager, I'm pretty sure I had a Raiders hat. I didn't know anything about them, all because of obviously the rap groups NWA and that they made it massive. But yeah, so my obsessions are more things like that. So I've just got a collection of hoodies, New Era, Mitchell and Ness, and stuff like that. So it always comes in like sections for me. The weird, well, not the weirdest, my favourite is the apron that I'm wearing that Nathaniel sent to me, because my missus thinks it's absolutely bananas and I love it. But I've not actually cooked in it yet. I'll wear it. I'll wear it. But if I'm going to go near the cooker to cook, I'll take the apron off, which she finds even more mental, which is why I love it so much. So it hangs on the back of my kitchen door, but it's in perfect condition because it's never been dirtied. So that's I'd say the weirdest, but also probably my favourite little bit. I've also got in my cabinet behind me an International Series helmet, International Series ball, and there's key rings, a lighter. I haven't smoked for years now, but I also bought a 49er Zippo lighter to add to the collection of the ones I've got in there. But I haven't quite got a man cave yet. Unfortunately, I get shoved in the corner of rooms for things like this. I will get one day though, gents. So but yeah.
Enough, you mentioned the Zippo lighter there, or a lighter. I've never ever smoked in my life, never have any intention to. But every time I go across to San Francisco, I look for a Zippo lighter. Yeah.
Well, they're collectible. I collected them from my dad. Gave me one of his old army ones that he had. Weirdly strange thing to give like a 11-year-old, but yeah, he did. And I collected them for that. I've got loads in the cabinet. I've got Budweiser ones and stuff. I'm sure they're probably worth something to someone somewhere, but I've always had a glass cabinet in my bedroom from a child with things like that, collectible stuff. But I haven't quite got a cabinet like you guys have behind you. I also really enjoy the canvas pictures. I will sneak one of those into the house somewhere at some point. We are redecorating, so if there's a colour change anywhere, I'm going to get one of those canvases. But yeah. So
before we hand over to Natalie, when Tracy watches back, James, she would be saying to you right now, you only have one head, because the cap obsession with me is I'm the same as you, buddy. It's just once you start to kind of follow the team, I always find that you have to rep. So obviously, I'm rocking my Dalton Steam t-shirt tonight, which cheeky nod. I said where, but I had the residency hat on. I had my Niners tracksuit bottoms on, and it was great to be in Sheffield on Saturday coaching under 11s flag football, but talking to Ravens fans, talking to Saints fans. The NFL in the UK is growing. So
massively.
The apron did make me chuckle because we said off air when I was looking for a photo, everybody, of James on the thumbnail.
No, you're not putting the photo
James's Facebook. No, I'm not. I'm not putting the photo up, but I could have done. Brett Sinclair will be sending you a friend request right now and looking for said photo. Just warning you.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tongue in cheek. Nathaniel sent me the apron, so I just put only the apron on and took a photo of me with the apron, but there was a mirror behind me. I thought it was quite funny. I just thought again when I got it, I opened it and then like my miss, what are you doing? I was like, I don't matter, Nathaniel will get it. Who's Nathaniel? I'm like, yeah, okay, how do I get out of this one? I got Bob, I'll be with you in a second. I'm like that in the mirror.
And why are you sending him a photo of you in that? But yeah, it's what we do.
I uploaded it to social media and tagged it in. That's the worst thing about it. Didn't just send it. I thought I better not just send it to Nathaniel, because in case he opens his phone and his wife's there. Just trying to get us in trouble, mate. That's all it was.
So before we hand over to Nathaniel, Justin has said that you're evicted James Raiders hat, but we'll give you a pass.
I'm not certain I had one. I think I had one. I think it was my mate's. It definitely wasn't mine.
And the joke in the chat is just to remind everybody that, yes, he's in Oklahoma, not Alabama. I got that wrong before. So we are joined by friends on both sides of the pond, which is great to see. So over to you, Nathaniel. Merch question. Anything weird and wonderful like these two chaps?
Well, I think the weirdest thing I've had more recently was when I actually got from because I've never had one of these. I've never had the nodder. Oh. I've seen a lot of them and everything. But for me, this is probably one of the weirdest things I've had. I did have I'm also into Lego. If I can reach it. Sorry.
Don't break it.
But it's a bricks thing. That's probably, this is probably the most weirdest thing I've probably got. It was, I still can't get over that watch party with Staley and awesome. It was awesome. It was a great evening. 2 floors of and just seeing him and actually talking to him about and it was just amazing, like just to talk to him about his the differences between the Harbaugh and the the
Shanahan.
Harbaugh era and Shanahan era. So it's just it was awesome to kind of see him, and he was a top guy. It was really, I mean, I know it's so long ago, but I think it really is. It speaks volumes when we've got you've got sort of fans that really do appreciate the game, and actually when the times that I've been out and I've worn a 49ers hat, or when I was in London, somebody from Minnesota was talking to me about, sort of like, how long have you been, she was from Minnesota. She was a Vikings fan, but she was really interested in terms of, how long have you been a 49ers fan? What made you, and I think it is good that, as you said, Paul, it's bringing people together. And I think, that really does help. Even when I've been down to the German beer place in Southampton, again, you're connecting with people that watch the game, and it does connect people. So football's family. I'd like to, as they say definitely. On the American adverts. So that's the weirdest two things.
So before we move on, Lee, Nat has segued nicely into, we do have to talk watch party, because as I said at the start, you've joined us. I know you came up to Leeds, and it was a strange one because you're someone that I've talked to quite a lot online. And obviously COVID hits, and then obviously you made the decision to come from the South Coast up to Leeds to meet us crazy people. So I was coming back to you first, because what I wanted you to give us an insight into is, some people are still on the fence. I know you've not been to a watch party yet, James, and some people think, it's a bit cliquey. What will happen when I get there? And what I wanted to ask, Nat, is your feelings on when you first arrived, because you obviously liked it as you came back for more and more. So I just wanted to go over to you on that, buddy.
I think for me, first watch party I went to, obviously I'd spoken to Lee. I think it was a few days prior to the actual official watch party, and unfortunately, with Queen Elizabeth passing, unfortunately, it was just a faithful meetup, which and I think it was great that it still went ahead, because people wanted to, it was a shame that sort of had to happen, and of course, it wasn't. But again, when I went there, it was the first time I'd actually been up there to actually go to it, because I thought, I booked the tickets, I've paid the hotel, I've got to go up there and meet these crazy people to see what what it's like and everything. And it was, to be honest, I mean, having been over to California in 2019, when we kind of had that guy right there as our quarterback. Unfortunately, we fell short again, but it was good that the group itself linked me in. And what I'm trying to say is that for me, I think going to that watch party was just as good as going to a bar over in sort of in America. And I think that's the thing. That's for me, it was linking in with people, and it has been connecting with people, and I've still connected with people even after sort of meeting them at the watch party, adding them on Facebook, speaking to them via sort of social media. So I would really, if you're sort of on the fence, I mean, I think for me, all right, I've spoken to people online, but until you actually meet them and actually get to know it's a bit different. I think that's the great thing about kind of it does connect people, and then you're supporting a team. The atmosphere at all the watch parties that have been organised has been immense. It's been absolutely unbelievable. And I am still hoping that, and you know what I'm going to say, Liam Paul, I am still hoping that, we can get one down in the South Coast. It's good that, I've linked in with Wayne Humphrey and, sort of some of the other guys, Kiefer and that live a little bit more down in the South, so we can, look to sort of organise. So I think as I say, it was good that, like last year, we had a lot more. There was a lot more sort of parties in different areas, like Reading, London, and all that lot. So it's refreshing to know I'm not the only crazy fan out there that and being going into Southampton. I'm always sort of some of the friends that I'd met when I was over in California. It's like they think I'm crazy but I'm wearing stuff all the time, and as I say, I'm just a massive fan of the 49ers, and I think this has really helped. So all I can say is if you're on the fence about thinking about going, highly recommend it. I'm planning to come up to at least one next year. Sorry, this season coming.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I remember.
yeah. That's my.
I mean, to be fair, Nathaniel, the South Coast, it's something me and Lee had considered pre-COVID. We'd considered Ireland, we've considered Germany. Before the Niners came along, all we used to do was similar to other fans. We'd put a poll in the group, right, there's a 6 o'clock game on. Where are we meeting up? So, James, I know you were trying to arrange a couple, and you arranged your own meetup for the Super Bowl watch party in the Midlands. And what was quite funny about that is this time, well, the first watch party Nathaniel was talking about, Jay Peplaw had a casino lined up in Birmingham. We were full steam ahead to do the 49er Faithful UK in Birmingham. And then Nick Clark picks up the phone and says, all right, chaps, I'm going to put an official watch party on in Leeds. And obviously you think, pointless putting 2 on, but me and Lee will always support anybody watching, you two chaps. If you want to host a mini meet, is what we've lovingly called them. I'll advertise it on social media. We'll provide you the support. And the dream is to see them all over, as you said, Nathaniel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we're going to stop calling it a mini meet because I think it diminishes what it is. I think what we'll call it is a local meet rather than a mini meet.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's all semantics, but I think taking away that mini, because I think that gives it a negative connotation to it. It's not a small meet. It's a meetup, a local meetup. I think that's a better way to call them rather than mini meets.
I think
going forward,
from
we'll do
the casino, wasn't it, Lee? So the mini meet was basically when 6 or 7 of us met up at the casino in Stockton, which was round the corner. So, and like I said, we've got you two chaps on tonight, and that's why I mentioned at the start, I know you're based in the Midlands, James. Like I said, hopefully we'd like to move around. As James Waters has put there, 9 years tomorrow when he attended his first group meeting in Manchester. My first meeting was in Manchester. Been down to Bristol, been to London, been over to San Francisco. So it's great to see the group grow from strength to strength. And that's another reason we got you two chaps on tonight. You got any more questions for them, Lee, before we move on? Or was your merch question the only one you've got?
No, I think the merch question was really the only one I've got. Well, the only one I thought of that was outside of the box of asking the normal questions. Just this one thing about James. So I was at that meet as well down in Manchester, and I think that was the first legendary meet because of Giants Causeway. I wasn't there at the time where somebody mentioned this. I don't know if it was James that mentioned this or Rachel. I had to go back home because the morning after I was running the Great North 10K. So while everybody was getting bevied up, I literally had like 3 or 4 bottles of Anchor Steam in the Printworks, and then by 6:30, I had to jump on a train, go home. But lo and behold, the next morning I went and smashed that 10K, and I was completely out of my normal routine, and I thought it was going to be terrible the morning after. But I credit that meetup with spurring me on to get that 10K PB.
Nice. Cool.
Right. Do we want to go into the kickoffs, the new kickoff rule? So I will have a go at breaking it down, and then we can kind of.
I'm looking forward to this because I've looked up today.
How we think Shanahan's gonna approach this. So for anybody that doesn't know, the new kickoff, the kicker is going to kick the ball from their own 35. The kickoff team are going to be on the opposing team's 40-yard line, and 5 yards further in is going to be the receiving team. So there's only going to be 5 yards between them. One on the 35-yard, one on the 40-yard. Neither team can move until the returner has touched the ball. And you can have 2 returners rather than 1. So you can have 2 returners in what they are calling the landing zone. The landing zone is between the end zone and the 20-yard line. And within that zone, you can't fair catch. So if the ball lands in there and you catch it, you have to return that kick. So this is all to do with promoting a return. If the kicker kicks it through the back for a touchback, the receiving team actually start on their own 40-yard line. So it's not beneficial for the kicking team to kick a touchback. They need to try and land it in that landing zone somewhere. Now, if the kicker kicks it and it goes into the end zone and it's downed, the ball will then be spotted on the 35-yard line instead of the 40. Or if the kicker kicks it into the landing zone, then it rolls into the end zone and is downed, it'll be spotted at the 20-yard line. So the worst thing a receiving team could do is let the ball bounce in the landing zone into the end zone and then down at there, because they'll only start on the 20-yard line. So it's all geared towards returning this ball, having somebody run with it. So how do you think Kyle is going to approach this?
I think he will love it. I think it's something that feeds into his mind, and he will already be thinking of ways, well, to score from it. It's simple as that, to score from it. The thing that they've changed this rule to reduce the amount of concussions, because obviously if both teams traditionally start at both ends and then they gain full pace and they collide, then you are going to end up with more concussions. So the two teams are only a short distance away. But as soon as those two lines are able to meet, it will effectively be two defensive lines going against each other. You know what I mean? Offensive, defense.
Yeah.
So you're still going to get injuries. You're just going to get different styles of injuries. You're going to get more tears, more ACLs and things like that. So while I get the concussion and the need to reduce a concussion, because long-term damage for concussion is horrendous, obviously, and that they've been trying to reduce it for years. I looked it up and I was like, we're still going to get 49ers. We're still going to get loads of injuries. We're going to, because we love an injury. And I just think, but then I started looking into it and thinking what Kyle is going to be, because the receiver can catch it and then they can lateral it. So we're going to get end around kickoffs. Definitely from Kyle, we're going to get end around kickoffs, which makes me think part of the reason Trent Taylor's returned, because I can't see him making the roster. I thought it was a really weird. So I thought they'd literally brought him in because he's George's best mate, which is fine by me. If you want to keep George happy that way, I'm good with that. Yeah. Just going to cost you a few $100,000 to do it, but I looked it up and I thought it's really interesting. I've seen it in the USFL, which it is now, which is the XFL, and the combination, the spring league that's just finished, which the Birmingham Stallions won. I only know because that's the only team I follow because I'm from Birmingham, and also red and gold. So that made sense. However, the lack of coverage in the UK was painful at times. But so it is more interesting. I can see why they've done it to reduce the concussions. But all I can see is, unfortunately, we're just going to get more injuries of, possibly more, more strains, more tears, more muscular injuries, more muscle injuries from two lines starting. I think, is it 5 feet or 10 feet apart?
5 yards.
It's 5 yards, isn't it? So you are pretty much in the realms of an offensive snap.
I mean, if you want to see how it works, James, Matt, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, he's chimed in the chat there and put the European League of Football are actually using this kickoff at the moment. So Matt commentates on the European League of Football. He was kind enough to come on the show a couple of weeks ago, talk about that. And he was saying, if you want to see it in action before the NFL season, cheeky plug for Matt and what he's doing, head over to YouTube, check out the highlights there. And here's a question for you, James, from Ty Alston. So you've mentioned that you're excited to see what Kyle is thinking up on the return strategy. Do you think it'll be Kyle, or do you think it'll be the alleged special teams guru Brian Schneider, as Ty Alston's asked there?
I think, as with everything with the team, it'll be a mixture of the two. Some people think that Kyle Shanahan is an offensive coordinator more than the head coach, but I mean, I don't. But I think all the decisions, the buck stops with him. I think it will excite them for definite, and I also think it will change the way NFL rosters are shaped. So your special teams selection in players, your special teams players are going to have to. How many times have we seen a kickoff where they both start, they run. By the time they meet each other, they just tap each other on the shoulders, they go past. And then that's them, they're on the bench, sit there, and they go out and trot out and do it again. Special teams players are going to be expected to do an awful lot more of that. They are going to be expected, their blocking and their tackling aspect is going to be, a lot more of a requirement. So I think it's going to change the way rosters are, with the special teams players. Our special teams are obviously a mixture of players from different positions. Does that mean we're just going to end up with special teams that are basically backup offensive and defensive lines? I'm not so sure. With a small kick returner and 6 foot plus guys in front of them, we'll see. It is exciting. At first, I saw it and I thought, but then I remembered the amount of times I'd watched games, sat down, the kickoff would happen, and then adverts would come on again, and you'd be like, okay. And the amount of times has that happened when we've been watching games? You get back to your seat, the kickoff, it's a touchback, which Jake Moody loved a touchback last season. Does beg the question that are they going to, with the kickoffs, will they switch up and give it to Mitch more because of the need for a high ball as opposed to, a long ball, should we say, because of the landing zone aspect of it? And if that's the case, are we going to see Mitch? I can never say his last name, so I'll just call him Mitch. Are we going to see? Yeah, we're going to see him get that return touchdown that he should have had last year that was sadly taken away from him, because he'd relish in that. Out of all the punters in the league, I think we've probably got the one that would relish from the new kickoff rules the most. However, we have got a kicker as well, so it might be interesting to see, will punters become more of kickoff kickers as well? They've got to, haven't they, really, if you think about with the the landing zone aspect, the need for a higher looped ball as opposed to a long kick for a touchback, which is what they all seem to be. I'm pretty sure over the years they've been pointed more towards that to reduce the concussion aspect of the kickoff returns and such. So it's just something new, isn't it? And it's something different. It's something that we'll watch and we'll go, it's a bit weird. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, might see some exciting plays, and then it's actually not a bad idea. Or alternatively, it'll go the other way. After 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have hardly any members left. We'll be picking guys off the street to throw into specialties because we've got no one else left because they've all twisted their ankles. So we'll see. But it's just something different. When I you guys contacted me to come back on here, I'll be honest, I'd muted everything. I'd still listen to the podcast and seen your lives now and again. But yeah, he brought me back into the fold, and I was like, they brought this new kickoff rule in 3 months ago, and I had no idea. So it just interested me, and it'll be something exciting.
So I think you're right as far as personnel are concerned. I think it's going to change the whole makeup of how a roster is structured now. And I think potentially this could end up being like a watershed moment for my boy Sammy Womack. Because if you listen to some of the rumours, the reason he's not playing is because he's poor in the run support, because he's not willing to get in there and tackle. If that's the case, he can no longer rely on just being that gunner on special teams, because he was only tackling one person. He was going after the kicker all the time. If he's going to be 5 yards away from the opposing team, he's going to have to shed blocks and tackle a few more people to get in there. He's going to have to toughen up a bit. So if he doesn't realise that and take that on board before we get into camp in the end of July, then potentially by the end of August or start of September, he's going to be one of the roster cuts. So I think it's a watershed moment for him. I think the way, as you said, James, the way the roster is going to be structured from now on, personnel-wise, we're going to be looking for bigger people with a shorter burst on special teams, people who can shed those blocks at such a short distance and then get through to the runner. So it's going to be interesting to see who we keep and who we don't keep this year.
Yeah.
So
just a quick word of advice, Lee. Don't get too attached to one single player, because Nathaniel will tell you, I once got attached to a player by the name of Reuben Foster, and that come back to absolutely bite me. Don't get too attached to one player.
Yeah.
Well, before we go down that rabbit hole, James, Nat, I know you've been taking it all in. The special teams, as Ty said, sexy talk. We all love to talk special teams. What's your thoughts on the new kickoff return?
Yeah, I think I'm just hoping it doesn't, because I think the only thing I don't get me wrong, I really do like the style of how we play and everything, but injuries have always been real, like almost our Achilles heel, I would say, because we do struggle. Yeah, it's a physical sport and everything else, but I mean, from what you guys have spoken about already, I guess for me, I'm just hoping that it doesn't lead to more injuries. I think we will, it will be a mixture of both, with regards to sort of Shani and the special teams coordinator looking to kind of, and hopefully they're working tandem. I guess for me, that's the thing, isn't it? It's working in sort of partnership and making sure you have the right sort of staff in place. I think last year we with Wilkes, it wasn't completely correct, and I think that's something to sort of take on board. I'm just hoping this year that, you know, if he's going to be, you know, calling those sort of, you know, sort of those plays and everything, he works well, because I think that was something that, you know, from the perspective of trying to have, you know, sort of leadership on the field and everything else. Yeah, this is the thing. So yeah, hopefully.
So before we move on to the segment of the CMC, James, I must admit you've just triggered my memory. Random pieces of merch. When I was 35, I got bought an Eric Reed jersey purely because he was number 35. So wearing that bad boy around, people used to be like, why on earth? And it was the black with the red. Doesn't fit me anymore because put a few pounds on since I bought that jersey. But that must be my most random piece. However, chaps, we have reached that part of the show where I need to tell you about our awesome partners. Power Brand Systems. They empower creators and businesses to build their brand, attract an audience, and grow through effective systems and software solutions. But what do I know? Just sit back and listen to them.
Ready to generate more leads from your website, Google, and your social channels without having to spend money on ads? Our platform provides you with an easy-to-use communication stream that sucks in free leads from your website, Google, Facebook, and Instagram, enabling you to reply and convert them into customers from your computer or from our mobile app. We'll even turn your inbound calls into text message conversations, so you'll never miss another lead again. Once you've converted a satisfied customer, you can shoot them a Google review request with a click of a button, which will explode your positive reviews and increase your position in search engines. The system will also pull new reviews from Google and Facebook right into your conversation stream, where you can read and reply. Jumpstart your business by getting started today.
So, Justin asked this question, Lee. Now, cheeky plug, we did talk about this on the podcast. However, we will talk about it tonight. So you mentioned it, I think, in the private chat, James. I'm guessing you saw the interview with the Ryan Clark. So I talked about my thoughts on Monday. So what was your thoughts on the interview then, James?
I thought he come across quite well. I thought the guys are clearly media trained, aren't they? Let's be honest. And you know the number one receiver for a team that's just appeared in the Super Bowl has had his fair share of media training. And that was clearly in play. But I think also on a personal level from him, there's been a lot on social media. He's appeared on people's, lives on Instagram and stuff. And there's things always try and get twisted and stuff. And I agree with what you guys said on the podcast. It's surely a matter of time before he signs. It's just a matter of agreeing the numbers. I think because of the experiences we had with George and Nick, obviously, sorry guys, I'm on first name terms with them all. I forgot to say that. What we've been through with guys in previous seasons, I don't think we're panicking as much. You know, even when there is people saying there's talks of trades and stuff. I think you said, Lee, that I'm like you. I rest assured whatever happens will be the best for the 49ers. But I also agree that he's our number one receiver. As far as that interview, to answer your question, Paul, I think he just kept it. I think he kept it 100. I think he kept it honest and real. I thought he was respectful. There was a couple of things in there that John Nitch might have gone, oh, but I don't think he did any. I don't think he did himself any harm. I think he done it because there's been a lot of speculation, and a lot of people talking on his behalf. So it was his way of being able to talk. I will say, I think it's quite unusual when you're in contract negotiations to do something like that. Obviously the different types of guys, George and Nick and Fred and BA are probably different types of guys, but they certainly didn't do anything like this. You know, when you're sitting around a negotiation table, you don't go 1 second, I'll be back in a minute, and go and do, media work, which is kind of what it was. But I don't think there was anything in there that was, bad or would cause chaos. Panic or anything like that. I think, the response to it was pretty much what you said on the podcast. I think, I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
As Justin has put there, James, he came across 5 different ways, whichever way you choose to perceive it. Yeah. I will say, Lee, before you chime in, the Pivot podcast, because I've forgot that in my notes. So I'll give them a shout out. If you haven't seen it, head over to them on YouTube. I enjoyed it. It was 50 odd minutes worth of seeing a footballer on our team talk about his life, which I found very enjoyable. But go on, Lee. I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, I think it's the way that contract negotiations are going to go from now on. It's going to be dealt with in the social media. I think it's all wrong. It winds me up a treat. I know it winds other 49er fans up a treat, but it seems as though it kind of works. It's working for them to an extent. So I think as long as they do what the guys have done, so they haven't been overly critical about the organisation, they've basically put their side of the story over why they want a certain amount or why they want more than what's being offered. I think as long as they're only doing that, then I can't see it impacting the negotiations too much. But it is, from a fan perspective, bloody annoying.
I found the podcast quite exciting. Have you seen it yet, Nat? The podcast we're talking about where Ayuk is talking. I think maybe his Nat might have froze, unless he's doing his best Gareth Ellis impression, Lee. I might be wrong. But I'll go back to you, James. I found it highly enjoyable. I said on the pod, as you've referenced for those people not listening, if you're fans of the English Premier League, you very rarely get that kind of insight into contract negotiations. So the fact that our number one receiver is on a podcast on YouTube talking quite openly about looking after his family. See, it didn't upset me when he said no hometown discounts. Now, maybe the fan in me doesn't really care where the money comes from, and I want the players to be paid. So the Niners aren't exactly short of a bob or two, for want of a better word. But
I agree.
Look,
it's not my money. It's not your money, is it? That's the thing. I'm very much like that. I suppose it could be a British perspective on things because it's something that's, I think, again, you said it, you yourself or Lee said it on the podcast. Plug in your podcast, something right on here, guys, because I've in the past.
We love it, James. We love it. We love it.
In the past few days, I've listened to quite a lot of it. Like I say, he brought me back into the football fold in the past few days. But yeah, I think it's something just I like it like you do, Paul, because it's something we don't get with the sports stars in British sports is that insight. We only ever get the media's perspective on things, and everyone's got a phone in their pocket. We'll all see things can get taken out of context as opposed to when you're sitting down and talking to a guy and you're hearing the words come out of his mouth. So yeah, as for the hometown discount comment, again, that's just something that you'll see on a 10-second clip retweeted around Twitter with so many things in comments and stuff, clickbait as it was. So yeah, but no, I love that. Anything the NFL films, Hard Knocks and stuff, even non-49er stuff, I'm obsessed with all that. Footballer's Life was also going back to when I was introduced to the game. I think I must have just watched like a solid week's worth of live to see all the players that came before I started following the sport. So that any of that sort of stuff, I love it. And yeah, I don't think it done him any harm. I think ultimately what will happen is any day now, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, because if it starts dragging in a bit and there's holdouts, that's when the fans start to turn. They did it slightly with Nick Bosa. With the whole
as Justin's put there, James, he's got no leverage. I mean, I did like this analogy before we hand over, and that it's a bit like a kid who wants candy, but he's got no choice but to eat his greens. So I do like that, Justin. So Nathaniel, you're back. I did ask, have you seen the podcast, the Pivot podcast with Ayuk on? Hang on. I think
you are muted.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no idea. I'm having some technical issues. But no, I'm sorry. I didn't have a chance to watch that that interview, unfortunately. But I mean, from what I'm getting the gist of what James said and everything, and I think, yeah, we've always had a bit of concern in terms of everything else, and it was the same when we had it with Debo. It is one of those sort of things, and we have to hold out and wait for him to sign and everything. So yeah, it's just trying to get the figures right. And I know we got to just think that. I mean, we just got to trust in in Shani and Lynch. I know they're going to get it right, and they'll get their people onto it in terms of getting all that sorted. I mean, so yeah,
I would go and watch the pod. I mean, I'll be honest. I watched it because I don't watch any of the sport, and Gareth is more prepared as a host. So he'd given us the itinerary for Monday's pod well in advance, and the Ayuk podcast was on there. So I thought, what we always do on this show, if we're going to reference a podcast like that, one of us will have watched it, and we like to kind of say, look, we've watched it. these are our thoughts. Go and obviously debate amongst yourselves. And I can already see in the chat now, Lee, they're talking about they haven't seen our Discord competition because they're dropping numbers in there about BA's contract. Get them in Discord, everybody. You might win yourself a shiny Joe Staley bobblehead. Over to you,
We'd
Lee. Anyway.
love it if somebody was that shiny. Joe
Modelled
Sticky
by
bobblehead.
Nathaniel there.
See?
Oh,
So go on, over to you, Lee, on your thoughts of Ayuk. I know we talked on the pod about it, but obviously it's the
Yeah,
topic
like I said, I
of
mean,
conversation.
I think it'll just play out. It'll play out. As Ty says, he's got zero leverage. He can't hold out because if he holds out, it's his 5th year. It rolls over to the next year, so he still plays with us for a season. So something has to give. Either he gets a new contract or he doesn't. Once we get to next year, there's a very good chance we'll franchise tag him anyway. And he'll get something close to what he wanted, but it's still not going to be as much as he wanted. So it's kind of a middle ground for both teams. It all depends on how he's going to react to that and how he's going to play. Obviously, if he's thinking, well, if I'm being forced to play, it's effectively a contract year, and I can go into free agency, because we might not franchise tag him. We might think, let's let him walk. It might be up to Purcell. Well, if Purcell balls out this first season, or even Jacob Cowing, if they look the type of receiver that Ayuk's been, good route runners, gives Purdy the confidence to drop the ball in between defenders, then he could be surplus to requirements.
I've
And to be
seen
honest,
a different
I mean-
take, Lee. Like, you might just ask your thoughts. Your good friend Larry Kruger tweeted out earlier on. He's tempted to let Ayuk play out this year, as in franchise tag, and let him and Debo fight it out, and then have this conversation next year, because Debo might be looking for renewal. Just go check Larry Kruger. I know he's a friend of yours, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we don't have to franchise tag him this year. He's on his fifth year option, and he can't not play. Well, he can, but like I said, it rolls over to next year, and he has to play next year. So he's got to play. It's the only thing he can do. We can franchise tag him next season. So as we come to the new league year, franchise tag him. Debo's already got his contract, so it'll all depend on who plays the best out of the two of them as to kind of how the structure that contract going forward. But I mean, as I said, if Purcell or Cowing ball out the first 8 weeks, we're going to get to this point in the middle of October where John Lynch is seriously going to be thinking, do I need to pay this sort of money for Ayuk next season? Because we've got these two rookies here who've balled out for the first 8 weeks. Why don't I trade them just before the trade deadline?
It all depends on if those Brock Purdy muscles that he's been building are coming into action, and he does throw it, because Brandon BA is our best deep threat.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say only deep threat, because I think Juwan Jennings also, you throw that big-bodied receiver down there, 9 times out of 10 he does a fantastic job. But he's our, best route runner and our best deep threat. So it all depends on how much Purdy's come along as well in his development. If his game changes, which, let's face it, it's the NFL, teams adapt, so you do have to constantly adapt. Each quarterback, they have to, you can't just do the same thing over and over. It's the most competitive American football league in the world. People will adapt, and I'm sure by looking from what I've seen, unless he's just been doing loads of farming, which is mean he's stacked on all that muscle, I think we're going to see more from Brock Purdy's playbook.
Yeah, I mean, if Brock Purdy has put on plenty of arm strength and his deep ball becomes a threat to the rest of the league, then potentially even Danny Gray. Danny Gray might now have an opportunity to show us what he can do, because we brought him in to be that speedster because of the speed. If he can be that long threat, because that's why, like I said, that's why he's brought in, because of his speed to get down there to stretch the field, and Purdy can hit him with a deep ball, then it might save his career in San Francisco. Because at the moment, I think Danny Gray and Ronnie Bell are out the door come the end of August, start of September. Looking at who we've brought in, I just can't see how there can be room for them, because I'd rather keep Chris Conley over either Bell or Danny Gray at the moment.
I think Ronnie Bell with the kick return, that with possible role in the kick returning, might be his only chance of. Well, not his only chance, because disrespectful to him, but I think that might come into play. The Chris Conley things, I like Chris Conley. We'll see. We'll see. It's all to come, guys. It's all to come. You know, we've got all this to come with who's going to make the roster and stuff. I think we've pretty much got a starting team as it starters all set. It'll just be all the others, which is nice because in many years it was always a case of we couldn't really call who's going to make the team, make the roster. So we'll see. It is more interest.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, over the last 2 seasons, when we've done our roster projections at the end of August, the last 2 years, I've thought there's maybe 5, a maximum of 6 positions or roster spots up for grabs. Whereas this year, I think there's going to be more than that. Because not because we've got bad players, because we've got better players. Because we've got better players, there's going to be a deeper competition going throughout the whole of the team. And I think there could be some shocks come the end of roster cut down day.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, before either of you kind of answer on that, we will get you back on to talk football when the season starts. And I'm already excited. I can see James is itching at the bit. Nathaniel's the same. Lee, we're going to do roster talk when training camp starts. Now, what is great about having friends of the show across the pond, first of all, Red Jet Shell has put in the chat that she's not feeling too great due to the heat. This is how you can tell they're across the pond, because she's put be safe outdoors, people. It's hot. It's not hot where I am, Shell. I had a beanie hat on, taking the dog for a walk earlier, my raincoat on. And if you could see what Nadji was wearing on the pod on Monday night, I thought we'd gone back in time to winter because it was a full
he had a woolly
jumper on in Manchester. But going down the rabbit hole, Lee, Matt has jumped in there. We don't have any problems with the heat in the UK. We had our summer last week, chaps. I think it was sunny for one day in the northeast of England.
Yeah.
So, but
2 days at a push.
Yeah, we will get you back on. The point of bringing you on in the off season was to kind of introduce you to the community. And we said at the start, we love to talk football with new people. Is there anything, Lee, at this point? Because I did say to the chaps, we would keep them an hour. I know we're not rigid at an hour. We can go longer if we need to. But is there anything at this point that you want to kind of talk about? The Shanna Tash, CMC getting married?
Yeah, I mean, both good topics. I mean, the Shanna Tash. So we've now had the Shanna hat, the Shanna hoodie, and now the Shanna Tash.
I dare you to do it for the season. Leaving the season starts.
So funny enough, I was thinking about that, but the problem is I wouldn't be able to do it. So you wouldn't be able to see it, but I've got a scar down here where I had cancer removed from my face. And ever since I've had that bit of my moustache doesn't grow. So that's a lot thinner. That's a lot thinner than that side. I can grow that one quite big, but not that side. So
just do the podcast like that. Brilliant.
I won't repeat what Tracy said, James, when she saw the photos, but let's just say it's not happening in my house. So if either of you two fine gentlemen want to try.
No, I did. What is it in November? Movember. I did that the one year, and let's just picking the child up from school is very interesting when you've got a moustache like that. Anyway, yeah.
No, I like that. So Ty has put he's not a fan of the Dirty Sanchez look. Rob D, Weekend at Bernie's 3, starring Kyle Shanahan. And
I've got to be honest, I didn't actually recognise Kyle in that photo.
Yeah, me neither.
It was,
I was the same.
It wasn't until somebody mentioned Kyle, and I'm looking at Kittle, I'm looking at Juice, thinking Kyle, and then it clicked. Because I think his hair's a little bit longer as well.
Yeah, it is.
His hair's a little bit longer. He's got the tash on. And he actually looks as though he's been working out as well. I think he's probably been on Purdy's farm with Purdy this off-season.
He
looks as though he's been working out a bit.
Yeah, they all scrub up quite well, the 49ers, don't they? But I think the fact that he was suited and booted, the 2 favourites I've seen is Brad Graham, SF9ers shared one where he's photoshopped Kyle into the Anchorman crew. If you've ever seen the Will Ferrell Anchorman. And then I saw one of our SF9ers and they'd compared him to Viper off Top Gun. So I shared that in the Discord group. So it's great. I mean, Luke Walsh has come in with another one here. Maybe he's gone for the Jim Tom Sula look.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. I like that.
Now, I wanted to finish off, Lee, before I let everyone go. So, cheeky plug. I coached for the first time at the weekend. I took 12 down to field. for an under-11s flag football tournament. We competed against 5 other teams. And it was just great to see youngsters as young as 6. And I think there was a teenage competition on there. It was an all-day competition. And obviously, Jamie Burgess came across Lee and supported. So I did say to the Dalton Steam lads when they'll be watching back that I would rep the shirt. We came 3rd overall. It was a very enjoyable day, but I just wanted to give the team a shout out.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, nice, mate.
So, Lee, anything else? Because we've reached the hour now. Do you think we should leave it there?
Nothing else from me. No.
James, Nathaniel, any final thoughts before we let these good people get back to their Wednesdays?
Well, I think you said it at the beginning of the show. This is the last month till March 2025. So for me, thank you for inviting me on. It's brought me back into the faithful fold, as we say. I think it was about time. I don't think I'd have been able to stay away any longer. But I'm looking forward to the season now. I've completely wiped February from my mind, if I'm honest, and I will never rewatch it. But and again, just to quote the podcast again, one final time, you are spot on in I'm not as downbeat because that championship window is very much open. We're not going into this season. Who's at quarterback? Is it going to be Trey? Is it going to be Jimmy? I think we'll discuss it in the future, but I think the only thing that can stop us from getting there is injuries, if I'm honest. But yeah, pleasure, guys. No, it's been brilliant. I'm loving all the moustache suggestions. Jeff Fisher, that's a good one. Perhaps that competition. Get Najee to make a Discord section just for purely NFL moustaches, because that would be hilarious. But yeah, thanks, guys. It's been brilliant. I really enjoyed talking football, and you brought me back into the faithful fold.
No problem.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really excited.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
So one more thing. So obviously we talked about meetups at the start. And this is not any breaking news or anything like this. It's not exclusive. But if I was a betting man, so we've got 2 6 o'clock games. This 2, 3,
2,
3 6 o'clock.
No,
2 is it?
2.
Oh, that's right.
2.
Miami's been moved to 9:25 for some reason.
Yeah.
So we've got 2. We've got Tampa and we've got the Vikings. If I was a betting man, I would say the official watch party is probably going to be the Vikings game. The reason I think that, it's because it's week 2. So there's a very good chance that all of the stars are going to be fit and healthy to play in that game.
Yeah.
Whereas by the time you get to Tampa Bay, you're halfway through the season. And if you've got a load of stars missing, or if, God forbid, we play poor, we're having a pretty poor season, you won't get as big a turnout for the Tampa game as what you get for the Vikings game. So to me, it probably makes sense to be the Vikings. So it might be something that everybody wants to be aware of, looking at potential holidays for the Monday.
What he's saying is book Monday the 16th of September as annual leave, which I've already done, because as soon as I saw it was a 6 o'clock game, I was like, I'm getting that whacked in.
Yeah,
but Lee,
it does kind of make sense.
So what you've missed, James, over the last few months, before I hand over to Nathaniel for his final thoughts, Lee's very good at teasing the breaking news. So when he said there, I thought...
I heard it all before the official Super Bowl watch party. When he was teased, I think he must have got peppered with questions about it from you guys on the podcast and on the lives in his inboxes. And I think he finally cracked and just went, "Yeah, I think that there'll be something happening." And everyone went, "Oh."
Yeah.
So,
there's a very good reason, James. Lee gets the news before me, because I'm just like a kid, and as soon as I know, I'm telling everybody on all the platforms.
That,
so Lee's
that
a
would
bit
be
more
me, I'm
reserved than me.
afraid. Yeah, that would be me as well, mate.
The worst thing is you have to sit on the news and not say anything until you get the go-ahead to tell people. And I mean, that very first official watch party, the one where unfortunately the Queen died a couple of days beforehand, both Paul and I knew in the May. And we couldn't tell anybody until I think it was the middle of August. It was literally 3 weeks before the watch party.
I kept that secret, and it was hard. I had Lee Gowland to talk to, but
all we could say is that there might be something official coming into the season that's going to happen, and that's all we were allowed to say. And I think that was mainly because obviously it was the first time they hadn't actually tied down a venue or anything, and that's why they left it that late. I mean, they were given instructions: give us at least 8 weeks. We need to book hotels. We need to book transport. So hopefully this year, I mean, if it is that Vikings game, we're going to be 8 weeks away, 9 weeks away in the next fortnight.
The advantage
So
they've got
hopefully-
of that one, Lee, if they do London, which for the South Coast people like Nathaniel watching, there isn't an NFL game on that weekend. Because remember when we went down for the Browns watch party last year,
international series,
Yeah.
Titans,
Yeah.
Ravens fans, well, all the NFL fans were there, and we had that issue where people had tickets for that game, then
Yeah.
couldn't get in. So, yeah, I mean, I had that one penciled in. Obviously, James, I'm not sure if you've seen the Chiefs UK fan group are hosting a watch party in Newcastle. It's their event.
Yep.
They've invited us along. Obviously, I'm Middlesbrough based, so I will be going, and I know a few people have reached out. But thank you for coming on, James.
I've penciled it in. I've penciled that in, mate. It's the missus' birthday weekend, and I've got family up in the north in Newcastle. So I was like, I think we might go up north for your birthday. And I had to tell her eventually. She went, why the Sunday night? I went, it's just easy to get Monday off, I think.
We'll sing a happy birthday. Yeah. You know, we can do that for you.
Oh, she'll love it. I'll get her to put the apron on. Brilliant.
Nathaniel, over to you, buddy, for some final thoughts. Thank you, buddy.
I just wanted to say to you, Paul and Lee, thank you very much for having me on this evening. It's been brilliant just talking 49ers. It does feel like a year ago now that the Super Bowl and everything else, and not having kind of the result we wanted. But I'm positive about where the direction of the team's going this year. I cannot wait for the Netflix show, The Receiver. I know it's probably going to bring back some memories, but hey, when you've got sort of the best tight end in the league in George Kittle and one of the best wide receivers in Deebo Samuel, I think it's going to make up. So I think that's coming. Is it July the 10th, I believe? So it's on Netflix, isn't it? So yeah, looking forward to that one. And as I say, hopefully when we get closer towards the season with the training camp and everything, we'll probably get a few more answers to some of these questions around who's going to make the the final sort of cut in terms of the team and everything. So yeah, but thank you again.
No
problem,
welcome.
mate. No problem.
Been an absolute blast having you both on. This was the aim when we moved back into YouTube. We are the 49er Faithful UK community, as me and Lee say. It isn't about me and Lee. It's not about Gareth and Nadji. It's about the community. It's great to see us grown from strength to strength. We will get you both back on. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, it's been absolutely great to talk all things football. Any final thoughts from you, El Presidente?
None from me, mate. None from me.
Right. Well, that means, people, we're not sure if there'll be a pod or a live next week. What we will say is keep those notifications switched on. We will be back with either a pod or a live, or maybe both, like we did this week. But Lee, all that is left for me to say is stay safe. Go Niners.
Bang, bang, Niner gang.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep court.